An Army Jeep in good condition, 1950s. 1907, Stoney First Nation, Beaver Clan family. Drinking school children learn worse than non-drinkers. Anti-alcohol poster from the USSR, 1950s. White people near the house of a black family they set on fire during the race riots in Chicago, 1919. In the apartment of the victim, found with multiple stab wounds, serial killer William Hirons left a message on the wall written in red lipstick. "Please catch me before I kill again. I can't control myself." Did cannibals really eat Michael Rockefeller? A woman asks for an autograph from a Titanic survivor, April 1912. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated a few months before the creation of the Secret Service to protect the president and other high-ranking officials. Ironically, the bill to create the service was on Lincoln's desk. A priest reads prayers over the bodies of Titanic victims aboard a British ship, North Atlantic, 1912. Private First Class Helmut Schmuck, 19, a paratrooper of the 173rd Airborne Brigade, prepared for his first jump in combat, Vietnam, 1967. Robert Earl Hughes was one of the heaviest people in medical history. In 1958, at the age of 32, Robert Earl Hughes passed away. At the time of his death, he weighed around 450 kilograms, 1,000 pounds. People pose on the carcass of a dead whale painted with graffiti. California, 1919. People fight for books. Plovdiv, Bulgaria, 1980. 80 years ago, members of the White House press corps rushed to telephones after Truman announced Japan's surrender. August 14, 1945. In the 80s in the USA, there were doctors who diagnosed by the smell from underarms. A family portrait of a couple from the Netherlands, 1929. Copy. A patient undergoing treatment for mental illness in Germany, 19th century. Monumental stone coins used by the people of Japan. They are still used as currency on the island of Palau. The first day of war. Soviet civilians in Moscow listened to the radio announcement that Germany has invaded the Soviet Union, 22nd June 1941. France's last duel occurred in 1967 between a deputy and a mayor after the deputy insulted the mayor in Parliament, calling him an idiot. Winston Churchill in Boer War captivity, standing on the right, South African Republic, 1899. Let's be friends. This was Adolf Hitler's appeal to the global community, 1936. Woman demanding the right to vote, arrested, 1914. 6-year-old champion of a pie-eating contest, 1916. This is a screenshot from the 1970s show, The Dating Game. The man circled is serial killer Rodney Alcala. He became the winner of the show, but the woman refused to go on a date with him. Imagine how lucky she was. The demise of the largest dirigible, the Hindenburg, marking the end of the dirigible building era. USA, 1937. Rare photo of U.S. President Woodrow Wilson, in which his famously bad teeth can be seen, 1910s. An Armenian woman from Aleppo, with tattoos indicating her belonging to a Bedouin tribe, 1915. Arab nomads gave her a choice: marry one of them and convert to Islam, or be handed over to Turkish soldiers. In Soviet Russia, some prisoners, fearing for their lives, would tattoo images of Stalin on their chest or other parts of their body because guards were not allowed to shoot at images of their national leaders. An Iraqi man celebrates on top of a burning American Army Hummer in northern Baghdad, Iraq, 2004. The world's last commercial sailing ship, the Pamir, rounding Cape Horn, 1949. German soldiers greet Soviet tanks with flowers, Poland, September 1939. A slave in restraints designed to prevent escape. The collar prevented the slave from squeezing through narrow openings, such as a window. A village paramedic with a patient, 29 years old at the time of the photo, Russian Empire. The director of the Belgrade Zoo persuades a runaway chimpanzee named Sammy to return to the zoo, 1988. Robert De Niro with his father, 1946. A cigarette holder for nudists, England, 1938. French police show the way to entering the German Wehrmacht in Paris. In 1945, France would become one of the victorious countries. Workers lay a wooden water pipe east of Lewiston, Idaho, 1891. Military women have a beer in their free time, 1947, San Diego, California. A dead miner's canary, 1875. Canaries were brought into mines because they were the first to react to methane leaks, warning miners of danger. In some U.S. cities, a law from the 19th century on deformities remained in effect until the 1970s. Maimed, deformed, sick, and other people whose appearance caused disgust were prohibited from appearing in public under threat of a fine. Dina Sanichar, a real-life Mowgli, raised by wolves and found in 1872 in the jungles of India. Mary Wallace becomes the first female public transit authority driver in Chicago, 1974. Afghanistan in 1973 and 2016. National Headstand Week, USA, 1940. Palestinian refugee camp, Jordan, 1969. Hyundai's founder paid for the shipment of 1,001 cows to his native village in 1998. He had stolen and sold a cow in his youth to buy a ticket to Seoul. The armored Mercedes-Benz of the president of Ingushetia after an assassination attempt by the Russians, 2005. Hillary and Bill Clinton in the 70s. 5-year-old Lena Medina, the youngest mother in the world, holding her baby shortly after birth. Peru, 1939. Russian roads meet German vehicles, USSR, 1941. A couple dancing in a 1950s nightclub. Finnish blacksmith Pirtimaki stood in line all night and became the first buyer of a bottle of vodka after the repeal of Prohibition on April 5, 1932. Victorian women who never cut their hair, 1885. Children in an iron lung before the polio vaccine, 1950. At the request of astronauts, a piece of rough fabric was attached to the inside of the lunar spacesuit's helmet so they could scratch their nose. Apollo 17, 1972. Players from the Toronto Maple Leafs and Chicago Blackhawks search for a lost, expensive contact lens belonging to Jack Evans. 1880s Fiji man with his whale-tooth necklace. A timeless problem, the fight against excess weight. For example, Portuguese monks in the 12th century fought this issue by making a special opening in their monastery's dining hall, so that overweight monks had to fast. A brutal experiment in the US, lasting from the 1930s to the 1970s. Over 600 African American workers from Alabama were given placebos and arsenic, despite a known remedy for syphilis. The purpose of the experiment was to observe how African Americans die from syphilis. Ronald Reagan gets a visit from two people dressed up as a horse in 1989. Chinese Americans protest against scrap metal exports to Japan. Your children and wives could be next. This metal will be turned into bullets, 1939. Charging an electric car in 1911. Photos of Titanic survivors. Lolo and Michelle reunited with their mother, 16th of May, 1912. In ancient times, Santa Claus would collect naughty children, throw them in his basket, and take them to the North Pole to serve him as slaves. This is where the legend of Santa's elves comes from. Messengers run out of the White House. The war has begun. USA, December 7th, 1941. Gay activists carry a mile-long rainbow banner through New York City to mark the 25th anniversary of the Stonewall Riots, 1994. Hachiko continues to faithfully wait for his owner at Shibuya Station, Tokyo, 1933. Foreskin or death. A Pakistani soldier checks whether a man is circumcised, i.e., whether he is Hindu or not, during the Bangladesh War of Independence, 1971. Even in the distant 19th century, cats were memes. Nuns keeping their eyes fixed on a fashionable woman, 1960s. A North Korean propaganda postcard from 1988. The postcard depicts a South Korean defected soldier, his new wife whom he met in the North, and a Volvo car available to any decent North Korean. Hiroshima before and after the explosion. A U.S. Marine feeds an orphaned kitten, Korean War, 1953. One of the most influential drug barons in history, Pablo Escobar, at Disneyland, 1981. 3 years of war between these portraits. German POWs watching a Holocaust film, 1945. Portrait of Kauwitz, a Caddo Native American, 1906. The most dangerous notebook in the world. It belonged to Marie Curie, and it emits radiation, 1899. The architect of the Auschwitz concentration camp, Rudolf Höss, shortly before he was executed. Photo related to HIV awareness by the CDC Historical Archives that was removed by Trump. Native Americans mastering the automobile, 1915. U.S. President Lyndon Johnson listens to a report from his son-in-law about the real situation in Vietnam, Washington, 1968. A Fine Receipt for Believing in God, USSR, 1974. An Unusual Invention, a portable TV from 1967. Preparing a Slave for Sale, USA, 19th century. Soldiers of the Potomac Army fight over a bottle of wine during the Civil War, Virginia, 1863. World Championship of Sitting on a Pole, Netherlands, 1971. Slogans such as Brits Go Home and Malta Wants Independence, 1960. Kiyoshi Ogawa, a kamikaze pilot who attacked the American aircraft carrier Bunker Hill. Evelyn Smith, a former stripper, was hired by a jealous woman to kill her lover. USA, 1935. In 1910, safe razor inventor King Camp Gillette offered former U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt a large sum of money to head his corporation in Arizona. Roosevelt declined, saying he didn't trust someone who made razors and wore a mustache. A comradeship trial over a woman who didn't want to work and pretended to be ill. USSR, 1935. Eyes that saw the nuclear explosion. Japan, Hiroshima, 1945. A man arrested for dressing as a woman, 1939. In 1940, portraits of Adolf Hitler were distributed in a Polish resettlement camp to be hung in apartments. Drug lord and political figure Pablo Escobar in the Colombian Congress, 1982. FBI photo montage created in 1945 in case Hitler tried to escape by changing his appearance. One of the main pieces of evidence against Ted Bundy, American serial killer, rapist, kidnapper, and necrophile, was his teeth. He bit his victims on the chest and buttocks. He even bit off one woman's nipples. British fascist Oswald Mosley, on an attempted march through Manchester, 1962. Cemetery of German soldiers who died near Moscow. The inscription on the plaque on the nearest cross reads, "They rushed to Moscow, but ended up in a grave." The mass extermination of cats during Pope Gregory IX's time contributed to the increase in the rat population, which led to the spread of the bubonic plague, killing hundreds of millions of people. People read the news about Kennedy's assassination. New York, 1963. Cambridge students protest the admission of women to the university, United Kingdom, 1897. As long as we have beer and tobacco, we are not afraid of the enemy scum. We will endure. German postcard from World War I, 1916. Oskar Schindler, the German entrepreneur who saved nearly 1,200 Jews during the Holocaust by giving them work in his factories in Poland and the Czech Republic. The Chicago Plan of 1833, when the city had only 350 residents. Boy Scouts collect money for the survivors of the Titanic, England, 1912. Thank you for watching this video until the end. I hope these photos impressed you. Some may have made you angry, brought a smile, made you happy, or perhaps even caused some negativity. Feel free to leave your comments and stay tuned for the next part. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Bye.